Hi, I'm Miss Kinney. I'm a biology teacher, and I'll be talking to you today about note-taking, specifically how to take notes effectively to help you support your learning. This video takes you through the first step in a focused note-taking process developed by Avid. The first step is taking notes, and then after that you process notes, connect your thinking, summarize, and apply your learning. And there's a second video that will take you through those other steps. This video is just about how to take notes. When you take notes, there are some principles you need to think about when you're taking notes. Okay, why are you taking the notes? What format's going to work best for you? And how will you select the information that you put into your notes, and how will you organize that information? So when you get into your classes, each teacher will do the notes or introduce new material in a different way. So for each class, you need to ask yourself, what is the purpose of my notes in this class? How am I going to organize these notes? Am I going to organize them in Google folders? Am I going to organize them in a binder? How will I organize these notes? How will I use these notes later to study, to help me with assignments and projects? What type of notes is my teacher providing for this class? Because that will affect how you take notes yourself. How do you like to take notes? I'm going to introduce some strategies today, and maybe you'll find one that really works for you. I really hope so. How do you learn best? So these are all questions you need to ask yourself for every class. So there are many note-taking formats you could use. One is Cornell Notes. In Cornell Notes, you include the topic or objective at the top to focus yourself, as well as the essential question, what you're trying to answer in your notes. You take your notes, and the nice thing about Cornell Notes is it allows you to ask questions on the side and summarize at the bottom. So it helps provide structure for processing your notes. You could use 2 and 3 column notes, for example, having a term, the definition, and an example. Or you could use a mind map or a graphic organizer. Many times your teacher will provide you with these. You could use an interactive notebook where you take notes on one side, and then the other side you process those notes. All of these strategies are helpful because it allows you to retain information over a long period of time. And again, I encourage you to check out the second video on processing notes after this. So one of the questions I ask you to consider is, how is your teacher providing you notes? Let's say there was no note sheet provided. They're asking you to read a book and take notes, or they're lecturing and not providing notes, or maybe they do provide a PowerPoint, but you don't learn well through that structure and you need to reorganize them. So there are some other options, like I said, 2 to 3 column notes, Cornell Notes, or create your own graphic organizer. Here's an important thing to remember if you're not provided with notes or a structure to take your notes. Don't copy every word for word from the source. Okay, force yourself to process and summarize. Also, please pay attention to graphs or diagrams in textbooks. They often have a lot more information than we give them credit for. Same thing with PowerPoints in class. Those graphics are very, very important. It's important you read the captions. It's important that you process those graphics as well. So at the bottom of this presentation, I've linked to some resources we're going to check out so I can give you a brief summary of some of these note-taking steps. So this is from an Avid source, and it helps you select the appropriate note-taking format. So again, you can see if you want to use Cornell Notes, it allows you to include the essential question, ask questions while you take notes, and come up with a summary. And this type of notes is really helpful to help you organize processing your notes. 2 and 3 column notes are really, really good for allowing you to write down terms and explanations. Sometimes it can be repetitive, but it's really good to build vocabulary and also to help you organize your notes into terms, definitions, examples, etc. Mind maps and one-pagers are good when you're trying to figure out what you know and what details you can add. So it helps you chunk information into main ideas and then points off the main idea and then details later. It also is more engaging because it allows you to really think about what you're learning. Graphic organizers, flowcharts, Venn diagrams, anything like that. Often these are provided by your teacher, but sometimes they're a really good strategy to use when you want to compare or contrast things, when you want to show connections between ideas. charts and tables. First of all, it's always important to practice looking at charts and tables to see what kind of information you can get from those charts and tables, ones that are already made. It's also a great skill to learn how to create your own chart and table because again, it allows you to organize information and focus your note taking, but it can be difficult and it can be repetitive. Interactive notebooks, these are kind of a living document. On one side of the interactive notebook, so this is my interactive notebook, okay, on one side you would have the notes, and on the other side you would process them. And again, that will be in the secondary video, but it's about chunking and highlighting and maybe creating a new mind map to organize the information. And finally, combination notes. So think about what you're taking notes on, what type of notes will be most helpful as you take these, what type of notes format will be most helpful for you, and also how you learn. Do you learn more through graphic organizers or do you learn more through outlining? So you need to think about your learning style and what type of information you're taking notes. So again, this is a basic Cornell notes sheet, just so you know what it looks like. And then here's a basic 3-column notes example, main idea, details, observations, and thoughts. And then a space where you could create a mind map. So I just wanted to show you some examples of this. Here's the thing though, most of the time your teachers are going to provide you with some structure to take notes. So you need to be able to work within that structure and find a system of taking notes, staying engaged, and processing notes. And so I'm going to give you some examples. Lots of teachers use slide decks to present information. They could use PowerPoint or a Google slide deck or a Pear Deck. And you need to think of a couple things. First of all, let's say you want to be able to write on them, but your teacher doesn't post them before class. Please advocate for yourself. Talk to your teacher and say, hey, can you print these or can you post these earlier because I want to print them or I want to be able to make a copy so that I can write on them during class. Are you going to write on the side of them? Does this style not work for you? Do you need to rewrite them and organize them in a different notes format? For instance, do you want to have like a notebook where you kind of rewrite the notes in an outline style or a different format that works better for you? Okay, and you have to stay engaged because if a teacher is using a PowerPoint, sometimes it's easy to drift off. You need to stay engaged. The teacher's going to usually say more than what's in the PowerPoint. So write notes with that additional information on the side. A lot of times teachers, especially in freshman level classes, will use fill-in notes. Fill-in notes are helpful because the teacher has provided you with the most important information and you just have to fill in the blanks. The hard thing is it's very difficult to stay engaged when you use notes like this because you're just looking for that keyword to fill in. So you need to make sure you stay engaged by adding additional information that the teacher tells you because they're going to have you fill in the blanks and then they're going to tell you other important things. So you should write those on the side. You could ask questions and write them on the side. Either things that you find interesting you want to look up later or things you're confused about you want to ask the teacher about later because the teacher will say, do you have questions? And it's helpful if you've already written down questions. You can also make connections to other things in the notes, like draw arrows and lines between them, and you can even make connections to your life. Sometimes teachers will give you notes that are similar to fill-in notes but are slightly more open-ended, like these outline notes. So you see Introduction to the Cell Cycle is the title of this section, and then there's information. So again, you're filling in information, but it's a little bit more open-ended. So much like the fill-in notes, it's difficult to stay engaged. Make sure you summarize the information, you don't write down every word, and then make sure you write any additional comments on the side to yourself and questions. Oftentimes, teachers will give you graphic organizers. Here's an English example. So even though I'm a biology teacher, I talk to English and history and math teachers to see, hey, what do you guys do? And one thing they do is something like a graphic organizer. So when you're reading a book or you're discussing it in class, you can say, okay, character list and significance, symbols, literary devices. So it's already helping you process your notes. It's helping you organize the information. In a graphic organizer, you want to make sure that you get the main points and the details. So think about how you're organizing your information within the graphic organizer, but know that your teacher's already helping you because the teacher's already telling you, hey, this is how you should organize this information in your mind. In math or in many science classes, sometimes you'll be taking notes on how to do a problem. So this is an example practice problem from genetics and biology. And in math, you have many practice problems. Make sure you're not just filling in the answers to the practice problems. Make sure you're taking notes on the process. What is your teacher doing to solve the problem? Because you're going to need these notes to answer other problems later. So it's nice to have additional information about how the teacher solved the problem, what tips and tricks they have, and that kind of thing. So make sure you're not just writing in what the teacher writes down, but you're actually thinking about what's happening in that process. So that's the end of this video. This video is all about taking notes, but please remember that you don't just take notes and never use them again. You should use them for your assignments, for your studying, for working on projects, for making connections between classes and even between units. And so there is another video I encourage you to watch on processing notes, connecting thinking to other topics and to other classes, summarizing and reflecting on your learning and applying your learning to different scenarios. So please check out that video next. And all of this is tied into mastering content and remembering things and being successful in class and just learning in general. Thanks so much. Have a good day.